Alright, hello everybody, I am Dakota. I am a filmmaker and a gaffer in the Toronto area, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make a classic dimmer to dim any incandescent, LED, or classic Fresnel light that you have in your kit. It's not as hard as you may think to make these dimmers with just supplies from your hardware store. It's incredibly cheap, they are incredibly durable, and they'll last on set for a long time. I've been noticing that there's a lot more cinematographers who are owners and operators of Quasar tubes, Tungsten Fresnels, or maybe you just want to dim like a China ball or incandescent bulb you buy at the hardware store or just like a Walmart. Well, I'll show you how to make these dimmers. Quick disclaimer before we go on, I am not a licensed electrician. If you are a little bit nervous or unsure, don't second guess anything. Go talk to a professional if you are not comfortable. This is electricity we're dealing with. I am not responsible if you hurt yourself, but I will be going through step by step how to make a dimmer with supplies from your local hardware store. Here you can see there are two dimmers. This one is a standard rotary dimmer, so you can dim it from 0 to 100%. And then this one over here is a slide dimmer. So you have your on-off, and then your dim from 0 to 100%. Both of these are great dimmers. I like both of them. This style of housing I like a lot better because this piece closes, and so it will protect somebody from bumping into this slide. But this way is a lot cheaper, as they're called gang boxes. This gang box is like $1, and this cover is less than $1, whereas this one, each the box and the cover is about $10 each, so it does increase your price. If you do go with a rotary style dimmer, get one that's a push, so when you want to turn it off, you don't have to go back to 0. You can save where your dimming level is and just push it on and off. So again, this style is a lot cheaper than this style, but I'll show you where you can buy all the materials. Alright, so before you go and pick out the materials of the dimmer, the best part about making things DIY or custom, like making it yourself, is you can choose the design and how you want it to work. So a quick diagram. Here is the wall, then here is your dimmer, and then this goes to the light. Alright, so I just showed you, you can either have a slide or a rotary from the hardware store. So that's this way. But maybe instead you can get a 2-gang box. You can put 2 rotaries or 2 slides. You have 1 tail to the wall, and then you can go to 2 different lights. This would be great if you're dimming multiple tungsten bulbs, or you don't want to be using so many cube taps or power bars on set, especially small sets. This could be very handy. Or maybe you have the walls here, you have your dimmer, and then on here maybe you have a power bar instead, because then you can plug in multiple different outlets and they would all be dimming from the same value. That would also be a fantastic option as well. So I'm just showing you really quickly that you don't have to build them the exact way I'm building them. I'll show you how to assemble it, but if you want to make something unique, hopefully with everything I teach you today, you will be able to go and do so. So what tools do you need? Hopefully you already have these tools at home, but a multi-bit screwdriver, you will need a Phillips, a flat, and possibly a square depending on what supplies you buy, but a multi-bit screwdriver, any sort of pliers will do, and wire cutter strippers, either this way or another style. A knife comes in handy when you are using heavier gauge wires, like if you're going to be using a 12 gauge wire. So these are the tools you'll need. Now let's jump over into the supplies. So like I said before, the gang box, this is a single 1 gang box, but you could get a 2 gang box to make a double dimming system, or have you know, 2 outlets on next to it. But you'll need a gang box, a cover for said gang box. So I am using this outdoor gang box, and a this cover. If you're going to be using a rotary style dimmer or something, or you don't want a cover, the dimmers usually come with a covers, but you can pick up a metal cover if you would like. Some sort of tension relief for the wire. Keep in mind that when you are buying this, when you're buying your gang box, make sure you check the number of the threaded hole or non-threaded hole to pick the proper tension relief. I like this style of tension relief. As you can see from this dimmer, this is just like a metal one. I don't really like this too much. Where this, I think it's watertight, is much nicer. Standard wire connectors or butt splice, either or, you can decide. But you will need one or the other. Keep in mind that when you're getting it, depending on the gauge of wire you're going to use, check to see this one's 16 to 14. If you're using a heavier gauge wire, then you will probably need a larger butt splice or a standard wire connector. Some wire. Now you will need 3 core, so you will need to have a hot, a neutral, and a ground. So 3 core wire. This is a 12 gauge. Depending on what wattage your dimmer is rated for, maybe you can get a 14 gauge. Use a 14 gauge, which is lighter and a little bit cheaper and thinner. But if you're going to be dimming, if you're going to be buying a dimmer that's rated for 1000 or 2000 watts, definitely get 12 gauge. If you are going to be dimming lights under 1000 watts, like maybe 650 or something like that, then a 14 gauge wire will be more than enough. Male and female plugs. An alternative to the male and female plugs is you can just buy an extension cord and cut the extension cord, and then maybe you want like a power bar, so instead of just having one, like in the drawing I showed you earlier, you might want to plug in multiple different extension cords, multiple different practicals, and this way also gives you some cable. So maybe instead of buying the cable and buying the plugs, you just buy a short extension cord instead, and that's perfectly fine. Last but not least, the dimmer. Now when you go to the section at your local hardware store, there's a lot of dimming options, a lot of different dimmers. How do you know which one is the correct one? Well, if you turn the box over, it will tell you what the dimmer is rated for. Now, I used to use 1000 watt dimmers. I don't anymore, because I find a lot of the time when I am using a dimmer, it's for practical bulbs. So, you know, those are usually 60 to 100, maybe 200. The craziest ones are 500 watt practical incandescent tungsten bulbs. Or if it is going to be like a Fresnel, usually the Fresnels are between 300 and 650, maybe 750 watts. So I go for a 650 watt, dimmer now. So make sure when you're picking your dimmer, you look at the back of the box, and you buy the correct one. The 1000 watt dimmers I find can get up to $100, so I don't. That's one of the reasons why I don't buy them anymore. And I usually don't dim 1Ks with them too often anymore. So Quasar tubes, little practicals, those kind of things. A 650 watt dimmer should do you fine, but do your research and decide ahead of time what you want to dim. Now, I find that they usually come in a box of 3 or a box of 5 for the 650 watt dimmers, and that's the best bang for your buck, because it comes out to like $12 or $13 a dimmer. So when I make them, I usually make them in batches of 3 or 5, depending. Okay, let's move on to assembly. So first you want to open all your packages. Depending on what gang box you get, it will either have 1/2 inch or 3/4 or whatever type covers. You can stick the cover on the back. Now you want to take your wire take your dimmer, take the faceplate off because you will be sticking it into this box. And then for your wire, you will have to strip the ends of the wire as well. Alright, now that I got all the wires revealed, I can go ahead and strip them. Alrighty, so now you got all your wires revealed. You're going to want to install the tension relieve now. I find it's always a little bit tricky. It's easier sooner than later. So screw the one side in, and since it's going straight through, you're gonna have the other side. And this is where your pliers come in handy. Be careful not to damage the threads like I just did. Nice and tight. If you are using a different gang box, you might need to use this metal giant nut on the other side to hold it in, and you can also use this rubber gasket as well, but I'm not making mine watertight. Don't have these around water, please. Now what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put the front end through, and then the tensioner to hold everything together through as well. As you can see, there are multiple different sizes. Just pick the correct size. Sometimes might take a try or two. It's also sometimes a little bit easier if you do it before you strip the wires back. But alright, now you can slide the wires through. Now we will pull the wires out after we're finished, but I like sticking it through a little bit more just so you have a little bit more room to work with. And all this hardware that's left over, you can just throw it in a bag and save it for later. Sometimes I end up bumping into a project where I might need something a little bit weird. Alright, both of our wires are in our box now. I am not going to tighten these till the end because we will be pulling the wires out a little bit more. Now let's take the dimmer. So which wires go to which? So this dimmer, you only need to do it for the black wires. If you did one black and the other white, you will blow your dimmer. So both sides need to be for the black wire. Okay, so now you either need to take your standard wire connector or your butt splice. I'll be using standard wire connectors. Just twist it on. Just like so. Same for the other one. Do the same thing for your grounds. There is a ground screw, but I like having the ground going to the wall. And then you also patch the two whites together. If you have smaller fingers, it's a lot easier. But now you can shove everything in here. What I like to do is finish the build, test it, and then screw it together. So now we can cinch up these and just lightly tighten it for now. We won't tighten it up all the way just yet. And now we will put our plugs on. What I like to do is, the way that I have my switch, I will put the male that goes to the wall, and then the dimmer, so this is 100%, I like putting the female end, so where the light plugs into on this side. So we just have to unscrew these 3 screws. Comes apart. We put this on first. So we slide this through. Just like so. Now we just have to plug it in. It's fairly simple. Green is for the ground, the gold is for the black, and then the silver is for the white. So let's loosen these up a little bit more. Nice and tight. Alright, now you just pull this down, line the screws up, and tighten it up. Tighten down the tension release on the plug itself. Now we do the female side. Make sure you put the cover first. I have forgotten in the past and then had to take it all apart. Alright, and then the same deal for this side. green for ground, silver for the white, and gold for the black. Bring the back towards you, and then just tighten up these 3 screws. There you go. So all we got to do is test it and then put the faceplate on. There's 3 things we'll test it with. Standard incandescent halogen 60 watt bulb. Clear, you could get frosted, whatever. This is a tungsten balanced LED 40 watt equivalent. You can get daylight. This could also be your quasar tube, but make sure it says it is for dimming. If it's a quasar tube, it absolutely can. And a small 150 watt RE for now. Alright, let's plug it in. Unfortunately, my closest outlet is off camera. Let's first test it with the incandescent. Alright, so it was in the on position, so this is on. This is at 0, so you can see it's just a little bit, and then you have off, and then let's bring it up. Here's 50, and then we got 100, fairly bright. Now let's try it with the LED. If you buy LED bulbs from your hardware store, make sure it says that they are dimmable, otherwise they will not dim. Let's power it on, and there we go. So this is 100. We're at 50. You can go down to 0. There you go. So you can really get pretty low. It might start flickering with these really cheap hardware store ones, but with your Quasars, no problem. My camera is balanced for 56 as my work light is a daylight balanced work light. Alright, now let's try the little RE150. Plug it in. Here we go. Power's on. As you can see, there's just a little bit of light. Now we can really bring it up. That's 100%. So, very nice, very nice. Alright, we're almost finished. All we have to do is screw this down, tighten up this, and put our cover on. So first off, the screws that hold it in place into the box. Not too tight. Now, when you take your plate, if you do use this cover, you'll have to take the foam out from the inside. Leave the outer foam. You can set it on. You will need the other piece of foam that it comes with, and you'll have to pop out the area around the dimmer, just like so. And then you also have to pop out where the screws are going to go. And now the flap, I like to put the flap so the on-off is closest to the back. And so now we screw down the cover. Not too tight because you could risk stripping this screw. Very nice. Now you can tighten up these tension relief. There we go. Now you have your own dimmer. Look at that. That wasn't very hard. Took you about 20 minutes. Okay, I hope you learned everything that you need to know to build your own dimmer at home to use with your Quasars, practicals, practical LEDs, or just your old tungsten Fresnels. If you like these videos, or if you want to learn more about making these sort of electronics, let me know in the comments. Questions, let me know in the comments. And if you're interested, we could do a tutorial on how to make a stove or dryer tap adapter, so you will be able to plug your HMIs like RE M18s right into a dryer tap. Let me know. This is a little bit more difficult, but if that's something you're interested in, we can totally do it. So anyways, hope you learned everything. Let me know. Yeah, next time.